Hello everybody, I'm Jeff Perro. Welcome to the premiere episode of Catch Up with JP. Today's guest is Mr. Jordan Danks. Mr. Danks was an outfielder with the Chicago White Sox from 2012 to 14. Spent some time with the Phillies in 15. I actually worked with Mr. Danks in 2009 as the home clubhouse manager of the Birmingham Barons when he was on the team. It's been 16 years since we've had a chance to catch up. Fun fact, when I first started the idea for this, it was going to be a website. I was going to interview some former players, talk to them, write up something, put it on a website, maybe do a podcast on the road. But Jordan Danks and I had so much fun talking, and it was such a good time that I just decided, let's make it a podcast. And that's kind of how it got started. So this was a recorded phone call. It was just a casual catch-up session. And it's been turned into a podcast. Welcome to the show. You know, I saw you in the 2009 in Birmingham, and then you got to AAA, and then you got up to Chicago. Can you just kind of tell me a little bit what that was like, getting the call?
Yeah, man, it was really cool. Coming out of college, I started in A ball, so I kind of started middle of the pack. I didn't have to go rookie ball all the way up, but in my second, or actually I would say my first full season, I started in Winston-Salem, was only there for a month before I joined you guys over there in 2009, and that's where I played the majority of that year was there in Birmingham with you guys. So kind of got on the fast track. I got to play in the Arizona Fall League that fall. I did well enough to, I guess, when I had camp next year, broke with the Charlotte Knights. And so a short stint really over there in Birmingham with you guys, but got on the fast track a little bit and then put up a couple mediocre seasons. So I never got that call up until my third year there in AAA. But figured something out, got the call. I remember we were in Toledo, Ohio when I got the call. Ended up playing that night. Everybody told me I shouldn't, but
Are you serious?
I couldn't pull myself out of the lineup, man. I was never that guy. And so I was like, somebody's getting an off day today, and I don't want to ruin that. So I jumped in the lineup, and I just told myself, don't get hurt today. Ended up going 1 for 3 with a home run. So one more for the road.
That was smart. So you didn't have to run the bases or anything. That's really smart.
Exactly. Yeah, if you hit it hard enough, then you don't have to run. You get a nice, easy trot. So
The hamstrings are safe. The fingers are good.
yeah. So I remember getting in and just being like, I had been in big league camp, so I played with those guys before, but
Right.
like this was kind of for real. And you get up to the ballpark and you're like, I'm actually like playing against the Blue Jays today, like the actual team. This is crazy. The first at bat I can remember, we were actually playing against the Houston Astros, and it was Wandy Rodriguez, lefty. And I actually hit one pretty hard down the right field line, but Brett Wallace, who I knew from college, and we'd played on teams together, first baseman, dove and robbed me of my first hit. So, but I did get it later that day. I got a little broken bat single. So,
Your first appearance was pinch running, right?
yeah, got in.
It kind of gave you a little chance to get the maybe get rid of the butterflies a little bit.
That's it. Yeah, Ventura was good about that. Anytime you got, I was very much got sent down, call back up, sent down, call back up. So anytime you get back up there, he didn't want you sitting around for a while before you get your feet wet. So he does a good job of kind of throwing you in there.
Yeah, you only have time to think about it. That you and your brother have the historical significance of a home run by one brother and during the win from another brother.
Yeah, I actually didn't start that game.
Oh.
Right fielder Avisail Garcia ran into the wall trying to catch a ball and had to come out of the game. And so when I came into the game, it was a 2-2 ball game. And in my first at bat, I hit a solo home run, and that ended up being the difference in the game. And so I got John the win. At the same time, I hit a home run. They said it was the first time since 1955. I actually have a cool little thing that my wife made me in my office at the house, and it's got baseball cards of me and my brother, and then the baseball cards of the brothers that had done it in 55. It was Billy and Bobby Shantz. And so she got baseball cards for that. I got ticket stubs from that same game, and then I got a baseball that I had, the actual baseball, the home run I hit. I had it authenticated, and my brother and I both signed it. So I have that in my office.
That's freaking cool. That's something that you're gonna have forever. The bracking up the miles back and forth between Charlotte and Chicago for a couple of years, correct?
Yeah, up and down. know what that's all about. Wife had to pack up the apartment more than one time with our kids and the dog, and drive up to Chicago and then back. And so, yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind for a little while. I was like, man, I wish we could just stay put.
But that's the job, right? Ride that shuttle
We
back and
knew what we were
forth, and yeah.
yeah, we know what we were signing up for.
You're married. Were you guys dating before you started in pro baseball?
I've actually known my wife. I met her in 8th grade. We didn't actually date till after high school, but yeah, after '05 we started dating, and then yeah, so we had been dating before I got into pro ball. We did it all through college. Actually did long distance. She was a volleyball player, played at Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas. So we kind of did that long distance thing for a while, but we got married in 2010.
I want to get to kind of when your career started winding down. You're up and down with the White Sox. You ended up with Philadelphia, and then that last spring training with Texas. Can you kind of walk me through how that all went down and how you felt about leaving the game?
Yeah. So I got put on waivers by the White Sox in 14, and Philadelphia ended up claiming me. So went to Philly the next year in their big league camp. Came down to me and another guy, Andres Blanco, but he ultimately won the spot, and I got assigned to Lehigh Valley there in AAA. Spent most of the year there. Had a short stint up with the Phillies when Chase Utley went on the DL. But didn't really play much with the big club that year, and then they put me on waivers at the end of that season, and I cleared waivers, so I became a minor league free agent. And then when I went to my agent and I said, what teams are interested, he gave me a short list, but a list nonetheless. And I said, well, if I'm not going to make a big league squad, which it'd be hard to do as a minor league free agent, see if the Rangers are interested, because the AAA ball club is here in my hometown.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that would have been a great little matchup there.
Yeah, so I was like, if I go to spring training, I can make the AAA squad. And they didn't know this going in there, but I told myself if I can't make a AAA squad, then it seems like it'd be a good time to hang them up. And towards the end of camp, they actually signed 2 outfielders, Ian Desmond, and then one of my old teammates from UT, Drew Stubbs. And then just the trickle down effect happened. Right. So a couple of guys got sent down to AAA, and then they pulled me in the office and said, you played in the big leagues. We're not going to send you to AA. But they didn't know in my mind that I was done if I didn't make the team. And so got released and hung out at the house for about a week or so. I don't know that I was really ready to hang them up. I was at home for a week, and my kiddos were there, and I was like, man, I just got tired of dragging my wife and kids around the country. I was pretty satisfied with my career at that time. I obviously wanted it to go longer, but my ultimate goal was to have one at bat in the big leagues, just to say I played at the highest level.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you spent parts of 4 years in the big leagues and stuff. That's gonna be with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So no regrets. So felt pretty good about it. Still feel good about it.
Good. I'm glad. So how old are your kids?
My oldest, Cooper, he was 2 or 3 when I was with Philadelphia in 2015, and my wife was pregnant with my younger one that year. So my younger one didn't come along till after I was done. But yes. my oldest, was just old enough to remember watching me play, so he's all about baseball. I'm at a guitar lesson for my youngest kid, and then we're leaving straight from here to go to baseball practice for my oldest. So.
Oh boy, I couldn't imagine, being a baseball player and walking away from the game. But now that I got married 7 years ago, I got a couple kids in me. Man, that family really it takes over everything, and it's the most important thing in the world for sure.
No, absolutely. The year that I had my first was the most home runs I hit in a season, and so we joked that dad strength is a real thing.
It is, man. Dad strength is a real thing. So what were your options when you were done playing ball and you were living outside of Austin at the time, outside of Round Rock? What careers did you have in front of you?
That was the only hesitation from hanging up my spikes was, right. what am I going to do now? The fear of the unknown, because I got drafted my junior year at UT. I never actually went back and finished my degree. So I didn't really have that to fall back on. And my only job that I've ever had in life was baseball. So not much of a resume as far as getting hired on somewhere. But luckily I had a neighbor across the street. He's actually, my best friend these days. And, he's a real estate agent. He said, go get your real estate license and then I'll kind of coach you through it. And so I did. I jumped in the books and went to real estate school and had my license within 2 months. And then it was, it's one of those jobs sort of like baseball where you get what you put into it. First couple of years was a scramble trying to figure out how to navigate all of that. But
That's a complex world.
yeah, it's a crazy world, and I feel like every single deal is different, and it's never just, hey, I already found the house, I want to put an offer in, and the house is immaculate. There's always something that goes wrong, and so it's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen from doing the kind of research for this project and stuff, and in the past, I've noticed it seems like a lot of ex-professional baseball players go into two things besides, say, coaching, go into real estate and finance. Those are two things I just kind of have seen over and over. I've read people say that it's kind of attractive because it's competitive, and you have that competitive spirit that you've had for 25, 30, 35 years. That translates into those two fields pretty well.
Yeah, that's it. I think just, because we talk in front of the media all the time. We're competitive, like you said, and so talking to people and being like salesman is kind of where it's at. And actually, so I still have my real estate license and I still practice, but it's kind of like my supplemental income. I'm not actively pursuing it, but randomly 3 years ago, I was giving baseball lessons at one of those indoor DBAT facilities, and a ball got through the net, hit a sprinkler head, and flooded the place. We had to call the fire department to come shut it off because we didn't have access to like that water closet and everything. And so I get to talking to this lieutenant in the fire department. And I actually had looked into being a firefighter whenever I was done. I figured it would be very similar to, locker room setting, just camaraderie with the boys until the bell rings. It's time to go to work. And when I called the local community college and tried to take the classes, and the lady on the phone actually kind of talked me out of it. I think I was 31 or 32 at the time my career ended, and she was like, are you sure you want to go through all this and all the training and everything just to be behind a desk in a couple of years? And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, yeah, 36 is like cut off. And it turns out that was a lie. I didn't know that, but she basically talked me out of it. So I was telling this lieutenant all about it. And he said, well, how old are you? And I was like, well, at that time, I go, well, I'm 36 now. And he goes, I'm 49 and I'm still on the truck. And I was like, well, are y'all hiring? And he said, we're doing our first ever civilian cadet academy. Get on the website and sign up or apply. And I did. I applied and I showed up for the first exam, just entry level exam, with 450 other people. I was like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. So
when you said that, I would have expected 30 people or something.
It was 400 plus. It's apparently a hard deal to get into. And so I passed that exam and I move on to the live interview process. And then they called me after that and they were just like, yeah, we'd like for you to come on. And so I went to their 6-month academy, passed all the appropriate exams. And for the last 3 years, I've been a firefighter in a town north of Austin called Pflugerville.
I had no idea. I had no idea that you were a firefighter now. That's awesome. Yeah, and that does sound like something that would translate. Like you said, the camaraderie, the teamwork, the physicality of it. I'm kind of surprised. I haven't really seen a lot of professional players, and this thing I'm getting research and that end up being firefighters.
Yeah, no, I enjoy the heck out of it, and the last 3 years, I find myself, I'm away from wife and kids a third of my life. We're 24 hours on and then 48 hours off. But they come up. The department's super cool. They can come up anytime and visit. The boys come up there and play ping pong and just hang out, and so
that's as really cool as being a professional baseball player to a 9-10-year-old. You know what I mean?
I say that all the time, and I'm like, man, I had 2 of the coolest job descriptions ever. It was or job titles. I was a professional baseball player, and now I'm a firefighter. So I enjoy the heck out of it, man. And I define myself more of a firefighter than a baseball player.
That,
Yeah,
so how
no,
long you
it's
planning on staying on the, you said you're 36, you're an old guy already on the team. How long you plan on doing that?
yeah,
And how long,
I'm
when are they
38
going to stick you behind
now.
a desk?
Yeah, 38 now. There's still people doing it. You just kind of rank up, and while I'm still young, I like the idea of being able to do all the work in the back seat and pulling the lines and spraying the water and all that stuff. Once you start to rank up to lieutenant level, you're just kind of delegating and telling everybody else what to do. So while I still can, and I again I got it myself into another job that forces me to work out. So
Yeah,
I'm staying in shape. Something I
forces. Yeah,
enjoy
you
doing,
you
but
gotta love it. I mean, it's gotta be like part of
yeah.
your DNA from your athletic family to what you've done in baseball.
Yeah, it's I never actually liked working out though,
Okay.
so but to have that excuse where it's just like, hey, you have to work out if you're going to do this job kind of thing. I knew the importance of it. So that's why I always did it, but I always needed that extra push from somebody. There's no real way to prepare for it. You just always kind of wonder like, hey, I wonder how I'm going to react the first time I see this or the first time I see that. And the way that we all kind of cope and check in on each other. There's other
Right.
ways of they have counselors and everything. Luckily, I've never had to go use that, but I mean, there's we see a lot of crazy stuff. We deal with it pretty well, and to the point where you almost have to kind of joke about it.
You gotta. It's the best way to cope.
There's just times when I'll be talking to the wife and I'll be telling her all about something I saw and then I was like, yeah, we just went back to the station and ordered a pizza, and I was just like, is there something wrong with me? And she was like, no, that's just how y'all cope, I guess. Yeah, the firefighter comes out of me for like camping and stuff, and you're like, hey, let's do s'mores, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna get extra long sticks, and then I'm gonna be in charge of like all this whole area, kind of thing.
There you
So
go.
firefighter in me comes out like, no, I'll build the fire, I'll do the things, and so they're just like me though. They're probably going to get into it one day because they're just a pyro like me. I told my wife I wanted to do it because I was a pyro, and she goes, you actually have to put the flame out and not actually start the fire. And I was like, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it depends. If nobody's watching, then you can kind of do what you want.
Right, right.
All right, man. I'm gonna get to a little wrap up. I got a lot for you. I know your clock is ticking on guitar lessons, but I got a couple preset questions that I want to ask you. You said you're 38 years old now, right?
Yes, sir.
What advice would you have if you were able to call up and talk to 18-year-old fresh out of high school Jordan Danks? What would you tell that young man?
People ask me this all the time in regards to, I had the opportunity to go start my pro career out of high school, but I ended up telling a lot of teams, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go to college because what really scared me was, luckily I had John, my older brother. He was like 17 years old and in double A, so he was on the fast track, but he had dudes on his team that were 32, 34 years old and never had a call up. And we know what you make monthly as a double A player that's not a free agent. And it scared me. So I was like, I wanted to go to college because one, I was just like, it's less than 1% of people who get drafted actually make it to the big leagues. So, I was like, I'm a realist. My brother was definitely one that was like, I'm going to play in the big leagues. And since he was 5 years old and he did it, but I wasn't certain that I was actually going to make it. So needed something to fall back on, but definitely wanted to pursue it because I was passionate about it. And it ended up working out.
You really use your head on that.
Yeah, so I mean, we get local kids all the time. We had a kid up here at Round Rock High School where I went to school that he got drafted last year. He was a pitcher. I think he was throwing like 100 miles an hour, and so he was one of the top prospect kind of guys. And his family reached out. They live kind of over by my parents, and reached out and was like, "Can we talk to your boys?" And it was like, "There's no better person to talk to about like, hey, should I go pro or hey, should I go to college first?" Because it's like, well, my brother went that route, I went
Right.
this route, and
You get both sides of the coin there.
and we're just completely different people. Like my brother, he'll tell you.
Oh, it's a good thing I didn't go to college.
Yeah, he was like, he was so pumped that he didn't have to go to college. I mean, he hated school. Not saying I loved it, but he just school was not his deal. So he was so happy that he had an excuse that he didn't have to do school anymore. Me, I was like, I'll bite the bullet because I don't know that I'm going to make it now. I don't want to be that 34-year-old guy in AA. Ended up working out for me. But to answer your question, I think that my advice would be just kind of do what you did, follow your heart. And that's know what's right. I knew it was right. And so that's why I did it.
Now, a little twist to that question. Now you're 38 years old, and you are able to go back and call 28 and 29-year-old Jordan Danks, who is has 1 year with the Phillies, last spring training with the Rangers. What would you tell that young man who's 28 and 29 years old?
I would say don't take anything for granted. These last, I didn't know that was going to be my last couple of years in pro ball. Everybody, especially after you get the call up for the first time and you're just like, man, I'm going to be a 10-year big leaguer and I'm going to make millions of dollars. And that just didn't, work out for me that way. I did well with the time that I had, and baseball certainly gave me a head start in life. As far as being able to purchase a home and a truck and my wife a car, and now it's like, hey, our debt is very minimal at this time, but we still have to work. I jokingly tell my brother all the time because he's wanting to get on and play video games, and I'm like, hey, some of us have to work still. We didn't all sign $65 million contracts, but no, I would tell him, don't take these last few for granted. I was a bit naive in believing, like I said, I was going to play longer than I did, and when it's over, it ends pretty quick. And I said earlier that I had no regrets whenever I hung them up, and I don't. But there is part of you that wishes, man, I look back at some of the teams I played for and some of the teammates and that I still stay in touch with, and you don't know you're in the glory days when you're in them, and that was definitely it. 2014 Charlotte Knights was one of the most fun teams I've ever played on in my life, and we had the greatest team, greatest camaraderie. Still hang out with those guys, or at least talk to them often, and man, to go back to that year and just be that would be awesome. Yeah, soak it all up, man. Don't take it for granted.